cloudy, 39 degrees. I'm Joe Lasky. News Radio WHAM 1180. Next news at 9:30. Breaking news when it happens anytime. Another hour with Bob Lonsberry starting now on News Radio WHAM 1180.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Good morning, Americans at home. My friend, like always, it is a delight to be with you. There's been a story percolating the last several days about a circumstance in which apparently personal information of some 130,000 Rochester City school students has been compromised. That would seem to be kids going back a few years. Anyway, learn more about what's happened. We're honored to be joined by a cybersecurity expert, world-renowned in that regard, Dr. Jonathan Weissman from RIT. Sir, good morning and welcome to the broadcast.
Good morning, Bob. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate your time. What's happened at the school district, please?
This is an unbelievable story. There's a company known as PowerSchool, and this company is a cloud-based K-12 software provider that actually serves in the United States and Canada over 60 million students, 9.5 million teachers. So this is a company that's out there as far as school districts go.
Yeah.
And what happened was in December, the company was breached. And the cyber criminals were able to access information about 62 million students and 9.5 million teachers. Locally, of course, 134,000 student records from the Rochester City School District. And supposedly, this attack happened when the credentials of a PowerSchool employee were compromised. Somebody got control of somebody's account and was able to just get all this information. Crazy.
That's astounding. As an expert in this field, and this is Dr. Jonathan Weissman, RIT, is this unusual? Were they poorly protected? How does something like this happen, please, sir?
Well, unfortunately, these stories are becoming more commonplace as the days, weeks, months, and years go by. So this is not shocking based on what has happened, but it's shocking in terms of the magnitude and the actual scope. One of the best ways you can secure your accounts, whether it's a corporate account, whether it's a personal account on X, it's to use multi-factor authentication. When you say you are somebody, that's identification, and that comes in the form of username, sometimes an email address. Authentication is when you prove you are who you say you are. The typical form of authentication is a password. But as you can see over here, it's just not enough. That's why we need to implement multi-factor authentication everywhere, which basically means in addition to the password, you're going to be putting in a code. And where are you going to get this code from? Well, some people still use text messages, but that's a very insecure way of getting this code. The code should come to you in the form of an authenticator app, and it's either going to be a Google Authenticator app or a Microsoft Authenticator app. So on your phone, you're going to pull up the app. After you put in your password, you're going to put in the code that's rotating in parallel with the code that's rotating on the server every 30 seconds. And you get in. Another alternative is a hardware device, something that you plug into a USB port. It could be a YubiKey. But the point is now, if the cyber criminals get your password, they don't have your phone with the app on it. They don't have your hardware device, and they can't get in.
Jonathan Weissman's
that this account was compromised.
Yeah.
There was no multi-factor authentication on this account.
Yeah. Jonathan Weissman's a cybersecurity expert at RIT. Who does stuff like this? I'm suspicious of hostile state actors. I see China or Russia behind this. Who would do something like this?
There's no indication right now of the origin of the attackers. But I'll tell you what, we have to be on our guard right now for the adults and for the children of the adults that were affected. I highly recommend everybody out there, for your children's future, freeze their credit reports immediately. Because once a child's ID is stolen, once a child's identity is stolen, all the criminals can go wild with that. It's a blank slate. No periodic checking of the credit history of the child. And as a result, when the child starts using their credit, when they get older, they become an adult, and they start using their credit, and they try to buy a car, or they try to lease an apartment, they're not going to be able to because of what the cyber criminals have been doing with their credit history that's been undetected, in some cases, for 20 years.
Yeah.
So protecting your children by freezing their credit reports, that's imperative. And you know what? All adults should have their credit reports frozen as well. There is no reason to ever have your credit report unfrozen. For an adult, the time it takes to freeze and unfreeze, for a child, to freeze your child's credit, it takes a little bit more time. But you know what? If the child's identity is stolen, if your identity is stolen, it'll take a heck of a lot more time to clean it up.
Yeah. Jonathan Weissman from RIT, and our connection's a little poor, gentle listener. I apologize to you. But who is there any way to apprehend the people who do this? And is there a market out there for 60 million potentially stolen IDs? Or again, I think more sinister thoughts. Is someone tracking? I mean, are there files on each of us, and now our kids off in some bad guy's computer?
Yeah, the cyber criminals are usually behind many layers of obfuscation. So in most cases, no, we're not going to even get close origin. But the scariest part of this is that we might not know the ramifications from now.
Yeah. Very good. Jonathan Weissman, sir, I always appreciate your insight. Thank you very much, sir. And I apologize, gentle listener, our connection was bad. Something was, bumping in and out and such like that. Here's the thing. When you put all your eggs in one basket, somebody drops the basket, you can end up screwed. And because schools across the United States and Canada, in our area, specifically the Rochester City School District, used this contractor because one employee was apparently compromised somehow, the records of those millions of people, to include name, address, and phone numbers, those things are all compromised now, and or are had potentially in the hands of sinister people. And again, I think we're sort of trained to think of cyber criminals as either, some guy in a basement in his mom's house, or some pretend prince in Nigeria or something. But I think that the identity theft or identity surveillance that's been so widespread in recent years, I mean, there are a variety of ways where they get the names and often financial information about large numbers of people through these compromises. I think that, in my mind, I always think of hostile foreign actors. I think of China. And I honestly bet that you go to China, they have, computers, and if they want to call up a file on you or your neighbor or this street in that town, I think they have extensive data on all of us, right? And I think that's consistent with what our intelligence services have said. So here you are. You're a student in the city of Rochester, as if there wasn't enough going against you, right? You now have this. And 130,000 students, who knows how far back that goes, where information has been compromised. Take a break. Back in a moment. 222-1180 is the number. This is News Radio WHAM 1180.